We'd like to call to order the Cuyahoga County Committee of the Whole for Tuesday, May the 24th, 2016. Clerk, please call the roll.
Calling the roll, Mr. Greenspan. Here. Mr. Miller. Here. Mr. Germana. Here. Mr. Gallagher. Here. Mr. Schrein. Here. Ms. Conwell. Here. Mr. Jones.
Here.
Ms. Brown.
Here.
Mr. Hairston.
Here.
Ms. Simon. Ms. Simon is absent at the moment. Mr. Brady.
Here.
There is a quorum.
Thank you. Any public comment related to the agenda? Quite obviously there is. We're having a special meeting today, and it's not something we do that often. We do have committees of the whole quite often, but not on a subject like this. We have been listening to people in the community about their concerns about the rate hikes that are expected from RTA and since the council, and potential cuts in some of the lines. And since the council does have appointments to the RTA, and because it is a countywide issue, we decided to listen to our constituents about what they have to say about this very important issue. So at this point, if we'll just read the legislation maybe and call them up. I know that's out of order, but would you just read the proposal, not the entire thing, just the encapsulated part?
Sure. Proposed legislation urging the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority to exhaust all available options and identify all potential resources in order to avoid or mitigate reductions in services.
All right, thank you. And then we'll just take them in order.
The first person is Ms. Carol Gibson.
Good afternoon. I'm representing the League of Women Voters of Cuyahoga area today. And the League's policy position on transportation supports mass transit as a public service, publicly controlled, with operating costs subsidized to meet the needs of all residents of Cuyahoga County, including the special transit needs of senior citizens and handicapped persons. Without appropriate financial resources, these goals cannot be accomplished. Therefore, the League urges adoption today of the proposed legislation. Thank you. Would you like?
Thank you very much.
Would you like this?
If you have something to pass out, give it to the clerk.
No,
and
just
we'll
one.
make
I'll
sure.
give her this.
Well, we'll make copies of it. Thank you very much. Who's next?
Next is Ms. Melinda Davis.
Hello, I represent a resident of Richmond Heights. One thing, I've been looking for work, and I try to apply for work in the Cleveland area, where I've been offered like Solon, Independence, Brook Park, where when I normally take 94 to get anywhere. So I have limited transportation access where I can't get to a job, where I rely on 3 buses. And number one reason is, the buses cut off really early on the suburban side. And number one reason is I also have concerns, and I do talk to my neighbors. They're concerned about, are they going to have a job any long? Because, some of them work in the healthcare industry, and they fear losing their jobs because of the transportation cuts. Some of their kids may not go to the colleges that they qualify for, and they're getting ready to cut down, like, college, the busing to go to Ursuline or John Carroll if they don't know where to go to. And, like something like if I need to get my needs met, I have to go to Maple Heights and all around, where I have to rely on 3 buses to get anywhere. And then even on weekends, I have to ride 4 buses to get anywhere in Cuyahoga County. And buses end at 8 o'clock, usually Mondays through Saturdays, and then Sundays is at 6. So, and it's like, I don't know what assets I can get that is more affordable or more reasonable that I can get to, because you can't barely depend on friends or family. So right now, I'm using RTA as my primary source of transportation. And it's a necessity. And it's like, if you cut that all out, I might have to relocate elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Rich Raphael.
Mr. President, members of council, good afternoon. My name is Rich Raphael, and I'm here today representing Clevelanders for Public Transit. First, let me start by saying how much our organization appreciates the time that you have allowed us today to come before you and tell various stories about how the proposed fare hikes and service cuts will affect your constituents. Just a brief timeline of what our organization has accomplished. RTA originally had a list of just 5 public hearings that would not have allowed a fair representation of the majority of RTA's ridership to be heard publicly regarding proposed fare hikes and service cuts. In response to riders getting organized and calling for more hearings, RTA moved on putting together a finalized list of the 15 hearings that were in fact held across the county. Our group was formed before RTA's current round of proposed fare hikes and service cuts. We have since met with dozens of elected and appointed officials and put together the following events. March 21st, a rally of 60 Clevelanders for Public Transit members calling for more investment in public transportation prior to RTA's first public hearing. March 21st through April 7th, our members attended public hearings held across the county, from Richmond Heights Library to Gunning Rec Center to churches along the Detroit Shoreway, and during this time we gathered over 1,000 signatures on petitions protesting fare hikes and service cuts that were presented to RTA's CEO Joe Calabrese at the final public hearing that was held at Fairfax Recreation Center. April 19th, Clevelanders for Public Transit held a lobby day in Columbus in partnership with Noble and SEIU Local 1. We took 50 people down to Columbus to lobby for more state funding and lift up the transit-related issues we are facing in Cleveland, meeting with dozens of state senators and state representatives, as well as folks from the governor's office. Geographically, our reach extends across the county, as does this issue, from Parma to Berea to East Cleveland and Cleveland Heights. Our people come from all geographic areas impacted and served by RTA, and we are continuing our active, ongoing efforts to build and deepen relationships with Cuyahoga County leaders, Cleveland City Council members, the Amalgamated Transit Union, Ohio Public Transportation Association, RTA's Citizen Advisory Board, as well as our existing relationships with the organizations that you see listed on the handout that you have in front of you. In the time that I have left, I'll refer you to the last paragraph. And again, I would like to thank you for allowing us to have this time to come before the council today on behalf of Clevelanders for Public Transit. This is a countywide issue that everybody is involved with, and we need your help to find a solution with this, and we look forward to working with council and county staff in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Mary McNeil.
Good afternoon. My name is Mary McNeil. I'm representing one of the representatives from SEIU Local 1. One of the situations I was concerned about is the number 2 bus is getting ready. They're trying to eliminate it. I have a senior citizen that takes that bus every day to get to work. She is unable to walk almost 2 blocks to catch the Kinsman, and almost another block, a long block, to catch the Quincy. The 11. So I would like to ask if you would consider not cutting that bus, because if you cut that bus, that senior citizen will have to give up her job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Nathan Malakowski.
Good afternoon, Council. Just wanted to thank you all for taking up this resolution and standing with your constituents on this important issue. I think President Brady put it correctly in saying that this is a countywide issue, and we do have folks from across the county who are here to support this decision and make sure that we lift up the conversation on transit even more. I would say this is the beginning of conversation, and I wanted to be sure to invite everyone in this room to an upcoming town hall on transit that we'll be hosting, and that's on the 23rd of June at 6 p.m. at Antioch Baptist Church, which is over on Cedar. I have some flyers, and I'll distribute these to you all, but we'd really love to have you join us, and we'd love to have you all join us. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next is Linda Brown.
Good afternoon. I represent CMHA residents and Cleveland, the ones for Cleveland Public Transit. I live in the Cedar area. I am a senior. I walk from 30th and Cedar to 30th and Euclid to catch public transportation because the number 8 only runs once every 40 minutes. And if the 8 is cut during the week at 7:30, how are you supposed to get to where you need to get? I catch the bus to go grocery shopping. I catch the bus to go to church. And I'm with a lot of other seniors in that area that once those bus routes are cut, the service is, limited. That affects all of us because a lot of them cannot walk from Cedar to Euclid to the health line. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is Mary Keith.
Good afternoon. I appreciate you all for listening to us today because I came here to Cleveland in 1970 and I've been disabled for many years, and the only transportation that I have is RTA. To take the number 2 bus away from me would limit me to getting to my doctor's appointments. It would limit me to going shopping and everything else that I have to do. Sometimes I have to go to the west side to go to the doctor. And if they take the number 2 away, which number 2 is the connecting bus from St. Clair to Steelyard, is the connecting buses to any of the other streets that you have to get to. And if you take the number 2 bus away from us, how is our children going to catch the bus going to school? Because school is getting out right now, but when they go back to school, they won't have no way to go to 55th to a school bus. They don't have no way to go to Wade Park to the school. They don't have no way to get to Bolton School to go to school. Now, I'm concerned about children. Children is my main issue. I worked in the school system. I volunteered in the school system for many years. And to see these kids having to walk to school, and now they don't have any buses for these kids. These kids don't have no way, parents don't even have cars. And like the other lady said, you can't depend on family and friends to get where you gotta go. You gotta take, your kids gotta go to school. If the kids don't go to school, then they come into your house at you and you going to jail because you didn't send your child to school because you have no access to getting your children to school. Now, they took the 33 bus and they took the number 12 bus away many years ago. Then they started with the school system, closing the school systems down. They was all east of the Cuyahoga River, okay? Then they closed 7 more schools down, all east of the Cuyahoga River. Now, east of the Cuyahoga River, once again, you wanna take the number 2 and you wanna take the number 8. Away from us. What do you want us to give up? What do we have to do? We paid the fare. Do we have to be treated like this right here to take the buses away from us? Some of us can't walk that far. I got neighbors that lives on my street that can't even walk that far. They can't even walk to the corner. I have seniors that I walk with every morning, which I broke my ankle and I'm having a hard time walking myself. But I walk with them from one corner to the next corner, trying to build their strength up because they're gonna have to go
We live on Townsend Avenue. We're gonna have to walk to Quincy to catch the bus. If we miss the Quincy bus, we gotta walk all the way. Can't take the Cedar bus no more because you're gonna take that away from us. Then we gotta go all the way to Euclid. How are we gonna do that? How are we gonna do this right here? And going across Carnegie, our children walking to school, having to go across Carnegie to get to Wade Park School. That's dangerous. That traffic is like a freeway. If you wanna get anywhere fast in Cleveland, take Chester, take Carnegie, and you there. But please don't take the number 2 and the number 8 bus away from us because we depend on it.
Thank you.
Next is Ms. Terry Jones.
Thank you. Yep. Good afternoon, Council. I'm in Councilman Pernell Jones Jr.'s ward. I live on 30th at Cedar High Rise. I'm representing the CMHA and Clevelanders for Public Transit. We need our buses. As you can see, I've been sick. It's hard for me to get around as it is. Excuse me. Can you see me trying to go down 30th to cross Carnegie or Chester? Even Euclid. It's very bad. Even in front of my building where I live because of the freeway traffic. The council person knows about it. It's very dangerous. And there's people almost every day getting hit. We need that number 8 bus. I use it to go to church and also to go to VA and University Hospital. It would be a great hindrance on the seniors as well as the children. We can't walk that far. And what about when winter comes? Cleveland is notorious for winters, as you all know. How could you see me trying to get to the bus on Euclid in this contraption? It wouldn't work. So therefore, people would miss their appointments. They would also lose their jobs. The children wouldn't get to school. This is very hard for us. I don't really think you really understand the depth of how hard this is for the seniors and the poor people that live in my area. We don't know what to do, and we're terrified. Losing these buses, it would be very hard. The number 2, people take that bus. There's a lot of seniors that take that bus. And also people that work in the steel yard. What are these people gonna do as far as a job and trying to feed their families? I heard this on CNN, there's a hedge fund of $2 billion down in the state. Why can't some of that money be allocated to RTA? The fare is going up. That's going to be hard too. People are going to have to take from their food, not have food or medicine to pay bus fare. Please help us. Thank you.
Next is Ms. Alana Faith.
Good afternoon, President Brady, Council. I don't know about you, but that was a little unnerving for me, that last testimony. My name is Alana Faith. I am proud to say that I paid cash for my lovely little home in Cleveland, Ohio. I've been here for about 30 years now. I am at this point using RTA as my primary source of transportation, particularly paratransit. I came to the February board meeting of RTA speaking personally, motivated by the fact that my boyfriend at the time, who was working as a security guard, left work at 6 o'clock in the morning on December 22nd, the shortest, darkest, wintry day of the year last year, walked from Q55 Apartments up Marginal to East 55th, over 90, up the hill to the closest intersection, nearly a mile walk to get a bus home. He had a few short hours before he had to be back for an afternoon shift. He never made it. He left work at 6 o'clock in the morning. By 6:57, he was pronounced dead. He walked nearly a mile, a healthy man who'd lost 30 pounds, and I had personally made sure he'd been to the doctor several times that summer. Since then, I became involved with Clevelanders for Public Transit. You have heard today a number of compelling stories already. This is a huge impact. These are people's lives. I probably relate to you most of all, highly educated, come from a business background, grew up in affluence. Not my situation right now. I've exhausted most of my retirement money taking care of my living expenses since I've not been able to work. So does the fare increase have a big impact on me? You bet it does. Initially, paratransit was going from $85 to $190. That was an increase of 123%. Now RTA has changed that proposal and downgraded it somewhat. Still a big increase, still has an impact. Now, here's why it's important and why it's a regional issue. 2 weeks ago, I was at a meeting, lovely meeting, of economic development people from the area. People who are my folks, strategic planners who know how to work a room. It was a target-rich environment for mass transit people to be there and for them to be able to network and build a connection to bring some economic interest into this. I know my time is up. Let me wrap up real quickly. So why is it important for you folks to help us? Because if you want a vibrant city, if you want a city and a region that's going to attract jobs, particularly millennials and valuable baby boomers, you need to support mass transit, and we need to get the funding here. RTA shouldn't have to do it on their own backs, and it certainly shouldn't fall to the burden of the folks that can least afford it and are most vulnerable in our community. So thank you for your time, thank you for your interest and your attention, and please step up and help this issue.
Thank you.
Next is Camilo Villa.
Again, thank you for taking the time to address this important issue and taking up this resolution in support of our organization. My name's Camilo Villa. I'm a staff organizer with the Service Employees International Union Local 1, which is also one of an organizational member of the Clevelanders for Public Transit. We're here because the bus lines that our members take to work constitute the only way that they are going to get to work. I was reading a study today that Cuyahoga County in the greater Cleveland area, but mostly the county, suffers some of the most acute job sprawl in the country for a major metropolitan area. And as such, as some of the folks here have intimated, that's how they get to work. So if you're trying to get, we have members who take the bus from the east side of Cleveland to Great Northern Mall to clean for 6 hours a day. These are, they're union jobs, but they're not super high-paying jobs cleaning at a mall. So any cuts or increases in the rates that they will be paying would constitute a major hardship. Our members are primarily janitors. Now, as you probably know, you don't really see the janitors around too much because they work primarily at night. And working primarily at night, they are the most at risk for suffering from cuts because, understandably, you cut first at the off-peak hours. Though these aren't the first cuts we've seen, and we're concerned that they won't be the last. The cuts that we're looking at right now, taking people in off-peak hours, could potentially have a really bad effect on a lot of our members, and that's why this is a critical issue to us. For them and for us, it's about getting to work so that it can support the families, so that we don't have to rely on government assistance, so that we don't have to rely on the generosity of others. What we're asking for is for the RTA and for the state and local governments to really step up to support the working people of this county so that they can continue to provide for their families. So again, thank you. I'm a proud resident of District 3, where in the inner ring we still have pretty good service. I have access to a 24-hour bus line with a bus shelter really close to my house on right off of Detroit, and that is something that should be available to everyone in the county, no matter where they live as far in geographically, or where they live demographically, or what the economic status of their neighborhood is. So thank you for taking up this resolution, and we look forward to working with the county and others in the future.
Thank you.
Next is Susan Bradfield.
Good evening, Council, and thank you very much for listening to us all about this issue about public transportation. My name is Susan Bradfield, and I live in Parma, Ohio, and I live at the Regency, which is on Laurent Drive, and the 79A goes from there down through 54th Street, which has 3 schools. And I have moved into the Regency because of the bus line, having a bus line. I do my shopping, go to doctors, and have had jobs, and have research projects and all kinds of things that is very important because you'd have to walk up quite a distance to get to 2 other buses. And the 3 schools on 54th, the 4 buildings, the Parma Hospital, which is turned to the university, the Justice Center, the 79A, and just that one area covers a lot. And there's a lot of people that work downtown and work in other places, connect with other buses, as I do the 20 to get up to go. And snow and ice, like one person mentioned, it's not shoveled regularly. We've been to 2 council meetings in April and May in Parma, and spoke with Mayor DeJeter and the council, and we mentioned the whole thing, and they're trying to get on board, plus the school board. And this is, if they plan to totally cut it. They've already cut it 3 years ago. They cut it weekends and holidays and stopped it running at 6:30 in the evening, which is early. And now they plan to totally cut it. There will be no bus going down by the Regency or the schools. And the kids need it for going places and doing things because if they don't have cars. And then, of course, the disabled, and I can't drive, I have epilepsy, so it's very, very important that we keep that 79A and these other buses that are planning to be cut. I have an article that was put into the Parma Post that I'd like to turn in to somebody. And I thank you very much for listening, and please don't let the 79A be cut and a lot of these other ones. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Audrey Johnson.
Good afternoon, council. I too live at the Regency, and Susan is my roommate. And I'm speaking as a working class person in Parma, because Parma doesn't have that much transportation. But I'm catching 3 buses, I'm catching 2 buses and a train every day, and I have to leave at 4:30 a.m. And if they cut the 79A, I will have to walk up to Ridge, which in the wintertime would be a challenging thing to do. So, as Susan spoke, we would like to have someone on board to help us keep the 79A. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Akshay Singh.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having this hearing on public transportation in Cuyahoga County. I'm a member of Councilmember Harrison's district in Cleveland Heights. I've been on the Cleveland Heights Transportation Advisory Committee. My community is going to have 2 major routes shortened. That includes the 32 and the 7, which are pretty vital to getting folks out to Progressive, for example, a major employer in the area. The entire cities of Mayfield and Mayfield Heights are going to be essentially without public transportation if some of these cuts are going through. I think there's plenty of people here who've talked about how vital the service is. I just want to briefly just highlight that, we are working with ODOT District 12 especially, being our local representatives, and we really need to be pushing them as well as the state to be, there's flexible funding at the federal level that could be used by the state to public transportation. We need to be really demanding that, and I think this body is a group that can really help reach out to our leaders in Columbus, both sides of the aisle on this issue. This is money that is coming in already, that is available and could be used to alleviate some of these issues on public transportation. We are seeing some really amazing cooperation going on just south of us in Stark, Portage, and Summit counties, working together to make sure that people can connect not just within their counties, but across counties, because we know that people are trying to get to work also in Lorain and Medina counties, and that's something that we've been asking, and I know Mr. Calabrese has been asked for a lot of help with at the state level. I just really appreciate that the county is taking an interest in this. There's a lot of ways that we can really pragmatically go after funds that are on the table, rather than just feeling like there's nothing to do on this. As well as internet sales tax. This is something that we're collecting sales tax already for public transportation. We need the state to be especially involved in making sure that every dollar that can go to transportation operations for public transportation are going there, and we're really asking for the county to be able to help with that kind of leadership. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Next is Caitlin Johnson.
Hi, everybody. I'm Caitlin Johnson, and I'm a resident of Cleveland and County District 2, and I am an organizer with the Ohio Organizing Collaborative, which, along with our brothers and sisters at the SEIU Local 1, founded Clevelanders for Public Transportation. I want to thank you all so much for having this hearing today and putting this issue on the table and considering this resolution. The thing that strikes me, and something came across my inbox today, an article in the Columbus Dispatch, that the private sector in Columbus is investing $90 million in public transportation because they know that's what they need to move their city into the future. And I'm hoping that this resolution and all of this discussion today and going forward is going to start something of like a Marshall Plan for public transportation in Cuyahoga County, because we have seen way too many cuts and not enough additions. And we know that every $1 invested in public transportation puts 4 more back into the economy. And as we're seeing so many jobs sprawl out throughout the county into the suburban areas where we still have a population that's generally concentrated in the city, we're having a mismatch that's affecting employers as well as workers. So I just want to urge you all to keep going, and thank you so much. And we look forward to working with you and working with our partners at RTA and our friends there, and at the city level and at the state level to try to fix this problem so Cleveland and Cuyahoga County can move into the future. And also hope to see you on June 23rd. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Destiny Hinton.
Hi, thank you all for having me. My name is Destiny, and I work at Ohio City Incorporated, and I've also worked a lot with the group Clevelanders for Public Transit. As an advocate just for Ohio City in general, as a CDC, we want to make sure that the neighborhood is being revitalized and is as vibrant as possible, as has been stated earlier. And being that in this role that I'm in, it's so important that we are able to create a narrative about Ohio City that talks about accessibility and equity as we move forward. And that's really a really big thing for us right now as we're moving towards with a lot of amazing projects going on in Ohio City. And two of the main intersections in Ohio City with the most traffic buses are right on West 25th Street. And as we're trying to create this new narrative and going in a different direction for Ohio City, we want to make sure that we're allowing people to get to Ohio City as that destination neighborhood. And that's what it has been. And raising the fares is definitely going to hinder that growth that we're trying to foster in Ohio City. And also with two of the largest CMHA properties being right on West 25th, those intersections and those bus stops and making them accessible and at a fair price to our residents is really important. And also, I want to speak on not only the raising of the fares being a hindrance to the vibrancy of our neighborhood, but also the 81 loop is being cut as well, and that's tremendously harmful to our residents in the CMHA property, Lakeview Tower and Estates. The tower and the Estates together house over 2,000 people, a lot of families, and a lot of a lot of senior citizens in that building that have walkers and canes and aren't able to get around as easily as some of us may be. So when we add the different obstacles that you face being in a wheelchair or pushing a stroller as a mother or father, and also the snow in the wintertime, that it's so many different things that go on. And as they propose to keep it open, keep it running 9 to 3 or whatever has been proposed recently, well, there are weekends when families have to travel and people want to get places. And I think it's really important to consider when we're looking at this to think about equity in this. And that's something that, as Ohio City Incorporated, we want to make sure is being inserted into the conversation. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Next is Rico Dancy.
Now, Rico, is this on the public transportation issue?
You got it.
Just wanted to be sure.
Good afternoon, board. I'm concerned about that 81. My grandma live over there. She's 89 years old. Walker, cane. She got, if they cut the 81 bus, or if they raise the fare on the Paris Transit going to $190, what they opposing, then it will concern me a lot about my LDOs, my disabled, my people who live in the West 28th high-rise, like the Lakeview Towers. And I get a call every other day. If they cut that right, because my grandma lived in a family. She will have to try to get her cane and walk up the hill just trying to get the 81. If they stop that bus from the low rise and the family, then I gotta figure out another way how to get my grandmother, my LEO grandmother, something kind to not to cut the service, okay? It's me doing stuff for her every other day, but if they cut the service, like with the fare, the parent transfers to 190, she only Social Security didn't go up this year for the last 2 years. If they cut that service, then what service with RTA or the county is going to do affect our seniors or our disabled people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Alana Garrett Ferguson.
Hello, I just want to thank you all for giving us the opportunity to address our concerns to you all. One of the concerns that I want to speak on is the raising of fares. As a young professional in the city, I travel on the bus a lot. One of the reasons is because I also have narcolepsy, so it's very, very hard for me to obtain a driver's license, and I've had to take public transportation all my life, basically. And the raising of fares is going to hinder a lot of young professionals. As you all will know, a lot of the entry-level jobs just coming out of college, whether it's 4 or 2 year, you start off at about 20 or 30,000, and depending on whether you have children or not, and the way that they take taxes out, that income is even cut a lot shorter. And so one of the ladies spoke about having to choose between public transportation and food, and that is a decision that I've had to make plenty of times, and I work every day. And there have been times that even now I've had to choose. So just going up a little further on there is going to hinder a lot of not only elderly, but also a lot of young professionals. And for a while, the city said that they wanted this to be a city where the millennials and a lot of people come back to. But wanting us to come back, you also have to think about what we will actually need. And since a lot of the job market, they're very slow in raising their wages and how they hire people, I think that you also need to be considerate in how expensive it will be for a lot of us in traveling. So that's just one of the things I want to speak on. And thank you again for allowing us to voice our concerns today.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, sorry about that, and Mr. Joe Calabrese.
Council President, Council, thank you very much. I don't know where to start. Let me say that RTA certainly strongly supports the resolution. This is a serious issue. You can tell by the comments. I agree with every single comment that's been made. It's serious. Many people who don't know public transit don't understand what these individuals are going through. To them, it's like me saying to many people in our society, I'm going to take your car away. They understand when I say I'm going to take your car away. For these people, the threat is we're going to take their car away. So I assure you that cutting service is our last resort. Raising fares is our second to last resort. And those things will only happen if they're absolutely necessary. 6% of all RTA services take people to and from work, 23% to and from school. I think we can all agree that taking people to work and to school are very important public functions that we perform. The good news is, and I know this is very difficult, we're talking about cutting service, RTA has by far the most comprehensive public transit system in the state. We serve every day more customers than the next three largest systems combined, Columbus, Cincinnati, and Dayton. And we do it 28% more productively than the second most productive system, which is that in Columbus. So with every taxpayer dollar we get, we serve many more people with that. The bottom line is that's not enough. The demands for what we do is much greater than our current ability to supply those services because of cuts on the federal and state level. And I can go on for far too long to talk about those cuts, but I assure you we take this very seriously. We had 16 public meetings, plus many one-on-one with mayors in our county and with special interest groups in our county. We heard most about the 2, 8, and the 81 as we heard today. I assure you when our board convenes again on June 7th, there will revise proposals from the staff to our board to address maybe not 100%, but the vast majority of the concerns we heard about the 2, the 8, and the 81 for consideration. So I think that many people here will be, I hope they'll be very satisfied with the end result. This is maybe the first time I've been here in a while, and certainly what I would suggest if council is amenable to that is maybe that we don't make this only when things are really, really bad, but we maybe can sit down and talk about how do we focus and how do we put some pressure on the state specifically to make this thing a go. Our state is one of the worst funders of public transit in the country. On a per capita basis, we're between South Dakota and Mississippi. That's not where you want to be. Our neighboring states of like population contribute $53 per capita to public transit. Ohio's 62 cents. It's unconscionable, and things need to change from that level. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have. Again, I thank you for this meeting. I thank you for your support and anticipate that support will continue.
Thank you.
Council President Brady, that was the last speaker signing.
All right. First of all, I'd just like to commend all the folks who came down this evening to speak. I think I can say with confidence from the rest of the council that people were particularly articulate, focused, and we do really appreciate the message that you brought down, letting us know some of the details about how difficult this will be under the worst circumstances and how important public transit is to our economy, as well as how absolutely dependent so many people are on it, who are the working class and working poor of this community. So thank you for coming. This resolution will be coming up very early in our 5 o'clock meeting. So if you're interested in staying, probably not too long after 5 o'clock, we'll be taking up this resolution. So again, thank you. The Committee of the Whole will be adjourned until 5 o'clock or about 7 or 8 minutes from now.